little bit more. Good enough. Ha ha ha.
Morning.
Good morning. I'm coming. I promise. I'm coming. Hello. Welcome to the Sun Dragon Sideshow.
The Dear Becky and Lizzie edition.
You get to say it today.
But we don't have any questions.
So we get to Dear Becky and Lizzie whatever we want. Ha, 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 ha. Hi, I'm Rebecca, also known as Becky today. I'm the owner of Sun Dragon Art and Fiber in sunny, chillier today. Who knows what's going to happen, Brevard, North Carolina.
I'm Liz. I'm the minion there.
You know what's going to happen. I never check my weather app. So, you know.
It's going to be a little chillier than yesterday.
Whenever we start, I always want to go, hello. My name is, and today we're going to talk about, it's going to be what? What'd you say?
A little chillier than yesterday.
Little chillier than yesterday. Little chillier than yesterday. I realized, from one of the reels I sent you, I'm from up north, so I talk fast sometimes, and I need to remember to enunciate. So, anyway, hi. I'm looking at. I haven't worn this sweater in a while. I'll show this off. This is made with La Pampa, which is a chunky organic merino from Juniper Moon Farm. And I'm forgetting the name of it now.
Your sweater?
It's something with an A. I'll look it up while we're talking. Yeah. It's Melissa Leapman wrote it for this yarn. And she did it with like red and cream and some grays, and I picked my own color palette.
Slightly Nordic.
Why am I clicking today?
Palette.
I don't know why I'm doing this thing today. I've never done that before. And I'm doing it multiple times today. Sorry, what?
Hers looks slightly Nordic. With the grays and the reds and the
yes, and we did, and I'm over analyzing how my name tag's sitting on it, but that's me. I overanalyze stuff. Big sigh from Liz. Okay. So
this is not the first overanalyzation of the day. So, and she's been here a grand total of what, 10 minutes?
I'm glad I amuse her so much. That's how we work together well. Yeah. So I was looking up stuff for Halloween Fest this weekend. Since we don't have any questions, we're gonna ramble a little today, and I have several things we could ramble about, and if no focus is given, I'm gonna ramble in whatever order I like, and I'm probably gonna forget half the things we were gonna ramble about, but this is why, if you want to. And we have a couple of valued customer repeat offenders who like to give us like lots and lots of questions to choose from. And I'm sure they will do that after this show again. But it really is kind of fun to sometimes have, like, we don't need the questions. We do love them. We love hearing what you actually want us to talk about. But hang on, I'm gonna see if I can find, I don't know if this will be in my library since I used a physical paper copy to make this. And we might have, if you bought yarn for this sweater, we might have some paper copies left. If we do, we will include them. But I don't know if we do. I could go look for the physical paper copy, but
would you like me to go
look? Maybe. I'm still trying to look for it. Actually, you know what? I bet I could look for Melissa Leapman and find it. And we're just gonna let Liz get her sneakers out of her system. But this sweater actually, bless you. This sweater, as well as, and I think I just watched my yarn roll down off the table that way. This one, which is, what is this stuck on? Okay. I think these are both Melissa Leapman, actually. Both of these sweaters, the one I'm wearing and the one I'm making, don't have any neck shaping in them, like back, like raising up the back to make the back higher than the front, which is why, and I was just talking with a customer this week about that, and like, that's okay. Not all sweaters have to. In fact, some people will pick a sweater pattern because it doesn't have that extra complication. But you can notice right now, like this neckline does not follow the neckline of my t-shirt. It's a wider and higher neckline because it's the same in the front and the back. And if the neck is not too tight, that's fine. Like this doesn't feel like it's chafing me. It might for somebody else though. So it's just something to keep in mind. Like that's one of the many topics I feel like we could talk about is the way that sweaters are constructed. You're going to come across patterns that do certain things or don't do certain things. And that's okay. Then it becomes kind of a personal preference thing.
Well,
and you don't know that until you make it.
Like that gives you like 3 different neck constructions, one without short rows or short row shaping to lift or lower. The ones that my Il Grande Favorito is an older, it's not really short rows.
No, it's
but
not.
You start at the collarbone and you build back and forth until it gets long enough to just cast on the rest, and then you start knitting in the round.
Yeah, so like the earliest sweaters were pieced sweaters where you knit the back and you knit the front and the sleeves and you assemble it all, and the back is higher than the front. The front, usually those are bottom up, and you stop lower down for the front collar and have more decreases, so there's a steeper thing in the front. And the earliest sweaters that were knit in the round did what Liz's Il Grande Favorito and my Billy Pullover and a lot of others still do, where they don't start in the round. They eventually will, and they start with just the top of the back, and you retro engineer kind of what was done bottom up on those early pieced sweaters, where it comes in, you start up here and you build towards the center so that it's lower in the front. And it's not done with short rows. You're right. It's done with increases as you're going, because you're knitting this way, and you cast on stitches across the front. So that's another way to do this without short rows. But it's kind of like when you're knitting small circumference in the round, and you have to pick your poison. Do you want to do double points? Do you want to do magic loop? Do you want to do 2 circulars? Do you want to do 9-inch needles? 9-inch circulars, the collar shaping. And I've done video on this of just overview of collar or shoulder construction type of thing. I think I did a collar and a shoulder, maybe. You pick your poison. Do you want one with no increase, no collar back shaping, which will be this? Do you want one where the complication is going to be that you are starting flat and building in and then having to cast on and figure this out? Or do you want one where you're starting in a circle very up top, and then the short rows or some other version of it tilts it for you? And what I found was the most interesting one I've ever done, I think, from what I'm used to seeing in patterns, is my Cordy sweater, because that one, there were no short rows. It was just right after sleeve separation, you knit like 7 rows straight just for the back, and then you joined in the round again. And what that does is when you pick up stitches for the sleeves, then it kind of it kicks the back up higher by where the sleeves are going to be, because you pick up stitches along the underarm here and along the edge of those 7 rows that you knit. So that one did the shaping, didn't have extra cast on here, just had extra rows in the back. No short rows, but still managed to achieve its goal. And so there's so many different ways. It's like, okay, again, you get to decide which one is the encumbrance you would like to deal with.
Is it all the short rows or anything that lifts the back up involves purling? So I always go, yeah.
So does your Il Grande Favorito, because it starts flat. So
and I'm like,
you've done some sweaters though where you made it garter just for that very reason.
My cardies are gardy. Or garter.
Or Gertie. I like
Gertie. They're garter because I did not want to purl that much.
Or you could end up with just that section being garter. If you really don't like purling, once you go in the round, you're not going to want to keep creating that, because garter is knit when you're knitting flat, knitting every row, and it gives you the structure like what she's knitting here, or like that. To recreate that when you're going in a circle, you actually have to knit a row and purl a row, because what that is actually knits and purls both facing, like it. The mechanics of it, if you learn to read your stitches, is fascinating. I think.
I was telling Mom about my Morse code and the turtlenecks, V-necks, turtlenecks, and she was like, "What?" And I said, "Well, if you look at a stitch, knit stitches look like a V-neck, and if you look at a purl stitch, it looks like a turtleneck." And so that's how I write my Morse code now.
Liz learned that from me, because that's how I teach it to everybody. But I like it. I to help people understand and read their stitches. It's like, think about each strand that's sitting on your needle, like your head and your neck, sitting on, like, lots of little heads and necks sitting on the needle. And what kind of collar do those loops have underneath them? V-neck or turtleneck? Bump. I call it V's and slashes. I used to call them, and now V-neck and turtleneck, I think, more visually represent. But you know, everybody's brain works differently, though, so everyone's going to process that differently, and so different terminology works for different people. So and I'm still looking for the name of this sweater, but we squirreled like 5 times now. But that's okay. So see, the way I'm sitting right now, you can't tell that this neck might cut right across, right above my collarbone, instead of sitting right underneath it. So, pick your poison. Do you want something that might be a little higher on the front of your neck? Then you don't have to do any changes to the like do anything in the back. Do you want to do something where you have to knit flat and then join in the round? Do you want to do something that has short rows or some other complication to raise up the back? Or do you want to make pieces and sew them together? All of that can be helpful when you're searching for patterns. So I'm going to see if, maybe I can just, there's the Lara. If her main page is in order of publication, I might not have to go back too far to find this. And I'm realizing as I scroll, I posted a project about this on Ravelry. Yeah. I don't have to be scrolling through her page. No. So now I'm going to go look there. This is what happens if you actually log all your patterns on Ravelry, which I do not. So, let's see. Projects. I have 2 projects. My Faye Summer Top, which I don't know if I will ever finish, and it's called the Arabella Pullover.
Begins with an A.
I told you it began with an A, right? Arabella Pullover. And I have a picture of it in progress. So Arabella. Yes. And this one was really interesting in that it's some basic stranded color work, but there are spots where you have at least 3 colors, if not 4, going across a row. It may not look like it, but it does. And so I had fun. And then I hit the torso and went, ugh. But I love the color. This acorn color is just absolutely gorgeous. And since it was chunky, it went fast. I want to say I was probably on 11 needles. A lot of chunky things. All my chunky projects right now are on 11 needles. And so,
those 11s are nice.
11s are nice. They're not too chunky, but chunky enough that you can get stuff done. Anyway, what else was were we maybe gonna talk about today? There was, this is the only difference between people writing in questions, is then we have to think up things and remember things. So
you were gonna talk about wanting to do color work with this, although it would be,
yes, that
you could do color work pivots, because it's going to be so thick that
I don't want to only make trivets with this stuff. Our yarn of the week, our product of the week. Yes.
What do you want to make with it?
I might actually want to make a cowl, not a triangle cowl, but one of those straight, loopy cowls, because not as big as this one, as the one I made, right? This one's huge. But this is one skein. This is how much one skein of 2 colors gets you. It's ginormous, because I actually could see that a cowl like this, like usually I don't do the straight cowls without the V-neck shaping thing because they flop.
Well, yes.
And this one could actually stay nice and firm around your neck. But I searched on Ravelry for like a nice little Fair Isle pattern, like something color work with this. And I wasn't finding anything like jumbo.
There's probably a reason for that. Even if you live in the coldest, remotest, northern, coldest nights, super, super jumbo, bulky yarn is going to be so thick that you're going to die of heat exhaustion.
Yes. I think if you were in really, really cold places, this would be perfect.
Yeah,
But,
but the Arctic Circle is only so big with so many people.
But this is like an art installation piece, you know? Like we don't wear this in the shop. We just have it to look at and go, hey, that's cool. So, you know. Do you realize you're dissuading people from buying this yarn?
No, I'm dissuading you from doing Fair Isle or stranded color work with it. This
But it
is the
would be
coolest
so
yarn
pretty.
ever for like, you know, everything but color work.
Now I want to do it just to prove you wrong. But it's
You
still
might as well do cables and Fair Isle in
ooh,
the same.
cables with this.
Fair Isle your cables. Cables would look gorgeous. In fact, I've seen cables in this.
It would be lovely.
It would be lovely.
See, okay, this would be lovely for a blanket.
Yes.
And I've seen things for jumbo blankets. Now, the issue is the blankets I've seen take probably at least 600 yards, which is 12 of these.
Well,
that's a lot.
When I was looking at the Mondo stuff that we don't carry anymore,
that's even thicker.
That's even thicker. People made blankets out of 4 balls of that on 50 needles. So you same yardage, you could put it on 50 needles and just have a very loose, big blanket.
True. When I brought the Mondo in, which the Mondo was like 50 meters for what, 400 grams? It was like one of them could maybe make something like 3 feet by 3 feet. Like could make a smothering baby blanket. I wouldn't make a baby blanket out of it, but like crib size or just, I mean, not, it was, yeah.
Is all the blankets that I saw on Ravelry yesterday were anywhere from
this was a very small blanket.
I wouldn't put it, I'd put it at 24 by 24. I wouldn't put it at 36 or 30.
Maybe I was remembering the number of stitches or something, but promises were made by my then rep, which maybe were not valid. So when we had people come in wanting to do the hand knit blankets with the Mondo, though, it was like, you're gonna need a lot. Like I had one person make an appointment to do that and then she backed out. And then 5 years ago, you know. So that's the thing with the it's still a phase. It's still like a trending thing is to make, like, I can make a blanket that looks like it's knit just by pulling loops through loops with my hands, because they see those videos on YouTube. Things don't die on YouTube. They go there. Like our channel, people will find old episodes and watch them and ask us questions about them that we haven't watched the video in so long, we don't know what they're talking about. But we try to answer them, but we don't know what they're talking about because we haven't seen the video in a while. I say that to say that these videos of people making these blankets keep resurfacing and keep becoming trendy and popular. And you either have to spend a butt ton of money on nice stuff that may not hold up to make it, like the fluffiest versions that people are seeing are roving, are pencil roving. They're not even,
it's not pencil, it's standard roving.
Well, just to give someone an idea of what, like it's more in the tube than like just fluff, right?
Yes, pencil roving is.
Liz is being very technical, which is fine. I'm gonna let her keep being technical, but there are a lot of us out here who are just like, what is roving to begin with? So there's lots of different types of roving. Continue.
Pencil roving is like a little thicker than this. Like it's very thin.
It's like a thick pencil.
When you order just straight up roving, it comes in a big long rope not rope. There's no twist to it. You can pull it apart into pencil roving, but pencil roving is not.
Thank you, Liz.
You're
It's important. She's right. It's important to be technically accurate. What I meant though was that it's that step before yarn,
Yeah,
but it's not like necessarily like the braids we have in the shop, which are the roving that has been kind of bundled a little more together. That's what I was going for.
It is those braids. Like,
I know.
yeah.
But I'm saying the braid is not
what
the amount you need.
Oh no, you need
See,
like pounds.
look at
and the
us.
braids are like ounces.
No show notes, people. We did not rehearse this ahead of time, so we're
The-
gonna disagree on camera.
the problem with doing it out of roving like that
Mhm.
is the roving is just a pile of hairs that have all been like coordinated into one long rope.
Mhm.
So the hairs aren't stuck together. When people spin, you just kind of thin out the hairs and you spin it. If you do a blanket out of it, all those hairs are eventually going to just kind of pill and be piles of pill. And if a child or animal gets on it, it's going to just separate. Like,
It's gonna
there's-
mat. It's gonna separate.
there's
it's gonna-
nothing to keep it together. So you kind of have to either felt all of it down
Mhm.
or by the chenille.
Yeah, I was getting to the chenille stuff. I wasn't there yet, but that's the other one that's really popular is the chenille, really synthetic stuff on the other end, which doesn't really hold together very well. You've tried to make one with it, and keeping consistent gauge with it is like ridiculous.
The chenille also, like, the packaging on the chenille says to connect two ends because it too only comes in like 50 yards. Like,
They're massive balls, but there's not a lot of yardage on them.
so when everybody's like, oh, I can make a blanket out of 2 or 3, you need like 4 or 5, and prices add up, and people you don't
You can't
think about
really
it.
weave ends in like you do with, like, there's nothing to grab onto. Like wool, when you weave in ends, like the wool grabs to itself and kind of holds it in place. And
the package on the chenille says take your 2 ends and stick them together, and then with a needle and thread sew around the 2 ends to hold it together to make it seamless. Nobody does that, so everybody ties it in little knots that will stay together, but
they're chunky, awful knots.
Yeah,
and
awful
like
knots. It is not a blanket in an afternoon. It took me at least my whole weekend to do it. That would be very pretty.
I'm liking these colors.
That would be very pretty.
What I might have to do if I do anything with this is like a scarf or something that just is 2 different colors. So when you wrap it around, the colors layer rather than doing color work with them. But yeah, to get us back onto what we were originally talking about. But what you were talking, sorry, what were you gonna say?
I've lost it.
What she was talking about with roving and everything, and it shows my limitations of, like, I'm still learning too. Because when my parents went to the fiber festival, then they were asking questions. They didn't know what roving was in general. I don't think I led them too far astray. But with the big blankets too, it was the Wool Room or one of those places has a really good video about, they tested it. They tested it out. It was one of those, like, why not to make one of those blankets?
They didn't do a whole, and I've seen a whole blanket, but they did like swatches.
Yeah, to test.
Yeah.
And they let dogs and people sit on them and like see what life was like if it was just on the couch for a month. But one of the things they explained in this video is that roving, the whole idea of roving, like, because my parents were like, well, what is that? And like the big fluffy stuff they thought was just yarn that they were seeing at the festival. And to try to explain, as best I understand it, mostly from their video, is like roving is the step before yarn, and that doesn't have any integrity to it.
No,
like,
it's
what? Go ahead.
I was gonna say it's post sheep. They take the sheep, shave the sheep, pull all the vegetable matter or most of the vegetable matter out, and then they just line all the hairs up into a long tube thing.
So it's been carded, it's been like combed, and like, so they're all facing the same direction. Like, see, this is me trying not to to be the only one who talks the whole episode because Liz has very valuable things to say, which is why when she broke in, I went,
I'll quit interrupting.
no, I don't mean it that way. I honestly mean,
I know.
if you didn't interrupt, you wouldn't get to say anything because me, right? At least I'm mildly
It's-
self-aware of who I am and what I do. But, no, but the video was saying how, like, without the spin, and even though there isn't a ton of spin on this, we've got two very loose plies that are plied, but without spin on the yarn, like of some kind, and then the plies themselves, all of that stuff is what adds the integrity, so you can yank on it and it might take more force to pull it apart, or that it might hold up better than the plies themselves when it's knit. Because there's yarns that if when I'm knitting with them, like when it says break yarn to change colors, you literally can just go and break it. But once you put it in a garment, once the stitches are involved, that's another level of integrity for it. So it's not like if you yank on your sweater, all your stitches are gonna rip apart, you know, like there's different levels of integrity to this. But when you start with something that has very little integrity to it, it's not gonna hold up as much. I mean, roving is like the ultimate example of how the softer something is, the more it will pill and wear with time. And so when you want something, when someone comes in and they want something really soft to knit with, and then later on, they may or may not tell us, but later on, if they're complaining that it pills or it's not holding up, it's like, well, what did you expect when you wanted soft yarn? It's not magically like Teflon, you know.
What
It's soft means that, yeah.
one of my
squish it and
friends had
hug it
done,
and call it George. Yes, what?
she did 2 of the hand pulled roving blankets, cables and I mean, oh my gosh, it was gorgeous.
I want to weep for how much work she
But,
put into that.
like they sat in the shop, it was in a consignment shop, and they sat there and people would walk by and just run their hand through it. And so if they had dry hands or little, you know, where your hands get a little dry and chapped,
no matter what,
it would almost pull bits out of it.
and if you had wet hands,
Yeah.
then you're leaving, then you were probably staining it.
Yeah.
And so I can only imagine.
Within like 3 months, it was a pilly, horrible sadness there, because like there's no integrity to all those hairs.
It's like, that's why I'm talking about this being an art installation, because you'd have to put it behind glass. Like I might knit something with some of these colors. These are now calling my name right now for some reason. Even though this is one of my favorite colors, this is just, I'm liking this. But it's going to be something that probably just hangs here in the shop. Like I'll see if I can find a pattern, because even though I want to just show it off, someone's going to say, how do I make it? So, but
which
yeah,
I think was the problem with the yellow and orange, or the green and
yeah. Well, and I was going to write a pattern down. I'm like, oh, this is fun, and I'll write the pattern down. And that was 4 years ago. Did I do it? No. Nope. The last thing I was going to talk about, but we only have like 5 minutes left, so I can at least touch on it, is the current struggle I am going through of, I should be finishing project. I should be knitting on a project right now so I could finish it, because I have started 2 new projects. I have one other that I want to start, and like the struggle is real of works in progress, the whips, as they say. I just tend to go with the whole long work in progress thing, piling up on me. And eventually I will finish some things, but I keep seeing new things I want to start.
I'm like, ooh, I need to make 4 ball holders for Christmas.
At least she's working on Christmas presents.
These are fast, and I've gotten almost halfway done with one just sitting here.
See? No, but I feel like it really is true. We are here to help people who feel angst over having too many works in progress feel better, because usually we can help them feel better because we have more. And so someone asked on, I think it was Matt, shout out to Madeline. I think she asked on Knit Night on Tuesday how many works I have in progress, and I don't count because that would make me sad. But I want to guess it's at least 30 to 40.
Every so often I'm like, okay.
You have like
I have
a pit of
100.
despair at your house.
I do. It's a dragon horde. It sounds
Okay.
better.
Dragon Horde. Pit of Despair is here. Dragon Horde is at the house. Gotcha.
I have like 176 projects on needles. I don't count the crochet ones because theoretically you can move the hook, but you're picking colors.
I'm multitasking.
She's starting a new project today.
Oh, crap. But okay, so I was thinking about, you weren't done talking though. What were you saying?
Crochet projects don't count.
Oh,
but,
that's right.
You know,
That's right. Yeah. I hope you all were paying attention to that because I have heard that before. So I guess it's okay if I wasn't paying attention to that.
she's picking a new project.
Well, I mean, as we've been talking, I am comparing like what that would look. This was more stunning than that, I think. These two colors might be really nice together. Because yesterday I was thinking color work and then I wasn't finding anything. I'm sure there's something out there if I kept looking. I'm sure one of you could find something for me. I'm sure I could take a super bulky pattern and just make it with jumbo yarn and make it work. But then you mentioned cables.
I think cables would look gorgeous in this yarn, and you wouldn't have the super, super, super mega jumbo sized color work that you're never going to be able
I would have mega jumbo size cables.
And those are going to be a little bit better than color because you won't have the second row of color unless you color work your cables.
No. Do I need to remind you how much thicker fabric gets when you cable it? Apparently I do. It's right here. It's right here. Okay. So, oh my gosh, such a hot mess of patterns. Oh my gosh. This is so much thicker than 220 by itself. Like, and this is an extreme version of cabling, right? But this is thicker and squishier than this part right here, right? Like,
yes, because the cables build the texture, but you don't have 2 layers of yarn.
2 layers of yarn overlapping. Anyway, we will see who's right. I think no matter what, I think in some ways we're both right. I think no matter what, it's going to be big and hot and heavy. And so I'm going to make a scarf most likely. Because, I mean, again, 2 skeins of yarn when they're overlapping. All this. And so I'm thinking I might do a half and half, like a scarf where half of it is one color and half of it's the other, just transition from color to color. And then there's options. I might even be able to make one long enough that you could do the fold in half and stick through the fold, type of, what I'm talking about, right? It's gonna be thick and hot, but if you make a scarf, then you can layer. You can put it on when you're cold and take it off when you're hot. I'm gonna think about this because this is the kind of thing I could probably do in like a day because it's so big and it's almost time to open the shop. So look, we argued away a whole like 40 minutes. So if you would like us to focus our ramblings on a topic you would like us to talk about, then you need to write us a letter or email.
Liz@sundragonartandfiber.com
and sending us a card. We still have Christmas cards up from last year and people are starting to go, have you already got Christmas cards? And it's there from last year. We put them up behind the counter. If you'd like to write us a card, we love getting them. You are going to write to Sun Dragon Art and Fiber, 35 South Broad Street, Brevard, North Carolina, 28712. And tomorrow night, because today is Thursday and tomorrow is Friday, I drove in today thinking that today was Friday, but tomorrow night, my watch is telling me to breathe. We have virtual sit and stitch again from 7 to 9 p.m. on Zoom, and you get in with the shop phone number
828-877-3550.
And I forgot to tell you, like I was gonna film this morning and I hear this kerfluffle behind me and I turn around just in time. The boxes, like all those baskets came in 2 medium-sized boxes. I turn around just in time to see the cat's tail disappear. into one of those boxes, which it's tall for him to jump into, but he made it in there. Then he had some difficulty getting back out again. It's one of the reasons I was late. I was waiting for him to get back out again, and I filmed it. I might throw this at the end of this video of him suddenly going, wait, how do I get out?
No, you have to put it at the end of the video.
Because I said
you
so.
mentioned
But
it.
it's here. It's on my phone. So I'll show it to Liz once we're off. I'm not going to show you all now because we have to go open the shop. But it's good to see y'all and talk to you. I mean, you're seeing us. We're not. Anyway. Come see us on Zoom tomorrow. And then we'll be back filming next week. So, okay, bye.
Like, subscribe, ring the bell, all the fun stuff. Yay.
What she said. Yeah.
Yeah.